Welcome back, wannabes and creators, to another episode of The Complete Creative, the podcast that helps you build and sustain a better creative business. And today on the show, we have one of my dear friends, Barbra Dillon, editor-in-chief of Fanbase Press. If you don't know Fanbase Press, they put out some of the absolute best books on the independent market. I particularly love Kinsey and the sequels, but they literally put out just so much amazing stuff, plus being a huge supporter of independent comics through their press site that, I love them so much, both Barbra and Bryant. Unfortunately, Bryant couldn't be here, but I had a great conversation with Barbra, and I cannot wait for you to dig in, whether you are a aspiring comic creator, an editor, someone who wants to work in the press. Really, Barbra has done it all. And I really hope you enjoy this one. If you want to learn how to make the best work of your life and share it with the world, then I highly recommend you check out thecompletecreative.com/best work. Additionally, I have a Kickstarter going right now, Ichabod Jones Monster Hunter Volume 2. If you love Kickstarter, then head on over and check it out. It's a little bit of horror, a little bit of fantasy, a little bit of mind screw, and a whole lot of fun. That's Ichabod Jones Monster Hunter Volume 2. And now, let's get on with the shoe. As I've been doing recently, I'm going to drop you right into the conversation as it's happening. All right, so I guess my first question is clearly the most important, which is, what is the number one fandom of your house now that once you have these two children? Is it going to be Hunger Games, Buffy, or Star Wars?
It's a really tough question. I would say Star Wars, I think, is the winner. Which is interesting, but I feel like as much as I love the Hunger Games and as much as Bryant loves Buffy, I feel like the Hunger Games is very in poor taste with children. So I think Star Wars is definitely the way to go.
Well, on one hand, but on the other hand, given the time we live in, maybe Hunger Games is the more prescient. Yeah, it's the one that you should be they learn the most from that. Who knows where it's going to be in 20 years? Exactly. This is very, very true.
We will definitely educate them about the Hunger Games at some point.
Yes, I didn't know that it was you were a Hunger Games and Bryant was a Buffy. I thought it was a combined mold of fandoms that you all somehow you have the same taste exactly as a couple that you have separately.
Yeah, I would say if it was a Venn diagram, I think that Bryant and I fall within Buffy and Hunger Games together, but the majority of Buffy falls with Bryant and the majority of Hunger Games falls with me, I'd say. But we definitely have a mutual love of both.
Awesome. Well, we've just been talking for a couple of minutes and people have no idea what's going on. So let's spin it back a little bit. And why don't you tell me a little bit about Fanbase Press, what you guys are doing, so we can all be a little more spun up and not just me.
Absolutely. So Fanbase Press is a award-winning comic book publishing company as well as a geek culture website. We've been in operation for 10 years now. And not only do we publish comics, but we support other creators through a variety of means. We have a staff all across the country that does daily reviews, interviews, and podcasts. And really what we try to do is we say that we celebrate fandoms and create new ones. So we really want to give a voice to as many creators as possible to have them share their stories and have those stories reach audiences as far and wide as possible.
And you guys do wonderful work. You guys were the first person to review Ichabod as well, and now we're doing our second volume.
I love it. It's amazing.
Yes. So you've been doing this 10 years. You've had a name change. You've had you've moved from doing a lot of horror comics to a lot of to getting Eisner nominated. What would you say is the through line that's kept that has followed through from day one to now, as far as things that have worked or things that are your core values that have stretched, that have lasted through this whole time?
Sure. Honestly, I think you hit the nail on the head in that I think our core values have really been what has been maintained throughout, in that we are fans and creators ourselves. So in essence, our company is by fans for fans. We fully understand the challenges of making and creating art. And so in not only making our own art and helping other creators to do so, we also want to support others who, even though we may not be publishing, we understand the challenges out there and the barriers out there for so many people. So we want to support other people as often as we can, and just provide content that fans enjoy. We love celebrating the fandoms that we love, and everyone is a fan of something. So anything that falls within the geek spectrum, we're happy to celebrate, and especially in doing so, providing a safe and positive space to do so. I think above all else that we want our creators, we want our staff, we want our readers and viewers to be as safe and happy as possible to explore their fandoms.
Does the two sides of your company influence each other? Like, does what you guys review and what's coming out like influence the kind of books that you make and vice versa, or are they pretty separate?
Honestly, they really are. They do have a symbiotic relationship, which is interesting because I feel like it's been the aspect of our company that has been the most scrutinized or questioned, but it's been the most beneficial for us. And I say that because we have met so many talented and wonderful individuals, whether creators or fans, through our geek culture side of the website, through doing interviews at conventions, through podcasts, etc. And many of those relationships have really morphed into relationships on our creative end and being published under our label. So it really is a symbiotic relationship that has impacted one another and has opened up opportunities for us as well. So I completely understand that some may feel that it's inappropriate to be supporting other creators, even though you're not publishing them. But for us, we really don't see this industry as a competition. We fully support other publishers. We fully support other creators, and we want everyone to succeed.
Yeah, I find that also crazy, considering that it would if you didn't have that side of your website, you would. Like that website, and you just supported people's Kickstarters and shared their work and like were as enthusiastic without that part, like no one would say anything. And I know because that's me.
Yes. But you have found a way to have a symbiotic relationship too, and that you are a creator, you have your own publishing line, and the complete creative really builds your brand. I mean, that's part of who you are as with a creator, as a publisher, as a business person. I think that both arms of what you do, even though they may not be fully integrated, really impact one another and influence your brand and who you are in a public face.
Absolutely. And like, I think that is the best companies end up figuring out a way to take all the pieces of themselves and make them work together and make them symbiotic and so the parts of Wannabe Press that I learn, I then teach in the Complete Creative, and the stuff that I like gather in the Complete Creative then becomes reference for people who work for Wannabe Press and become and work on our brands. And both of those sides of the company, much like our anthologies funnel into a lot of the work that we publish and vice versa, it all is supposed to work together. Like it's all like that's how a company can function when it's very few people.
Absolutely. I co-sign everything that you just said 100%.
So you've been on the show before, and this may have been back right when you guys were changing to fan-based press. I think we actually talked about the change. Now, I would love to know, talk a little bit about the journey of like what you guys got an Eisner since then. You guys have like expand your publishing line massively to include superheroes and bilingual comics and moved into the education space. And Can you talk just a little bit about like what has changed from like the interview we did 5 years ago when you were sort of at your 5 year place in your company, or I think it was roughly 5 years ago, unbelievably. And like what has and what how the company has evolved and how you've thought of the evolution of your company since then.
That's a really great question, Russell. And yes, it was 5 years ago, which is so unbelievable to hear or fathom that it was 5 years ago. But honestly, in a lot of ways, I feel like as much as we, Bryant and I as individuals and the company as a whole and all of our creators and staff, as much as we've grown and learned and experienced, at the same time, I feel like a lot has remained the same. And I think it goes back to your previous question about how our core values really remain what's most important to us. And I think for us as a business and as our creative passion, I think what's been most important to us is that we always maintain a sense of realism in why are we doing this? You know, what are we looking to gain with this company? What are we looking to put forth into the world with this company? And how are we willing to help people? And I think that has always remained the same. And I guess what's really interesting is that 5 years ago, when we were rebranding from Fanboy Comics to Fanbase Press, Bryant and I took a really long time to do a deep dive into the foundation of the company, not only in our mythos and our mission, but what it is that we do on a daily basis with the company, how we approach the content that we put out, not only in publishing it on the website. And I think that building that really, or rebuilding even that really solid foundation for Fanbase Press helped us to kind of cut the fat and make it so that we were more determined, more focused in what we were doing. And I think over the years, that's strangely both allowed us to expand, but also zero in on what it is that we were doing well, what we enjoyed the most, and what was most well received by people. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I feel like it is kind of a dichotomy of both changing and evolving, but staying the same.
I don't even remember the question that I asked. I'm going to be honest. It's very hot in this room, but you did hit on something that I want to talk about because I've been kind of obsessed this year with trimming the fat and like and finding and moving into the thing that you're like putting more attention into the thing that you really love. So could you talk a little bit about the process you went through to cut the fat, as you said?
Absolutely. So what we did when we were looking to rebrand is we laid out, I mean, there were so many charts and graphs and Google Docs of what do we do down to like, what kind of reviews do we post? What genres of reviews do we post? Like books, comics, movies, TV. At the time, we were doing anything and everything just to help everyone. In addition to, company-wise, like how did we approach adding new staff members? How did we approach adding new contributors? What is a contributor? I mean, we looked at absolutely everything. And what really stood out to us and what has become our tagline through Fanbase Press is the concept of celebrating fandoms and creating new ones. And so what helped us is by zeroing in on, hey, this is who we are and this is what we do. That's a really, easy 5-word tagline. But if something didn't fall within that phrase, then it was gone. It didn't fall within our company. It didn't, it took up too much time, and it, as valuable or fun as it may have been, it wasn't what we were doing, and it wasn't what Fanbase Press was supposed to be. And you can really do, it's surprising how much of a deep dive you can do into what that means for every facet of your company, but you really just kind of have to put your mind to it. And I think that was the challenging thing is like, it took us at least a year to really figure out what that rebrand looked like and trimming the fat and sort of building from the ground up for Fanbase Press again. But it was so invaluable at the same time because it has allowed us moving forward to really, as I said, zero in on, yes, this belongs, no, it doesn't. And then we can kind of hit the ground running from there.
Yeah, a lot of people do this like before they start. And they say, okay, so this is the kind of creator, this is what I want to do. But very few then go back, revisit this kind of idea and see if they were right or wrong. Because especially when you're at the beginning of your career, you have no idea what you want to make. Like that's not fair. Like you have you like have sort of what you think you like making. But if you've never made that thing before or done that thing before, like just because you like, like Frank Miller comics does not mean that even though like he's your guiding light creator, that when you make a comic like Frank Miller, like you are going to enjoy it. You might hate it. Like you might say, this is not my art style. This is not my writing style. I would rather write like My Little Pony. And so few creators, like once they're in it, ever look at whether the thing they're doing is still servicing them. And what is impressive about the thing you did is you guys did look back and say, well, these things are fun, but they're not working. Or these things are working, but they're not working well. Or like, these things I hate. And like, these are the things that really let us like, let's double down on these things.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And I think it's important. And I think that it's that kind of introspection not only helps you as a business person, but it helps you on an individual level as well. So I would say it's not just about doing so for your business, and I think you would echo this as well, Russell, especially in this year that we've been going through, that it's really about introspection within yourself as an individual, what makes you happy, what your goals are with your company, what makes you feel creatively fulfilled, what makes you, I know it's such a relative term, but successful. What does success mean to you? I think that that's something that you can always take time to revisit to not only help your bottom line and to help your business as a whole, but to help yourself as an individual to be a whole person as you move forward.
So this brings up the logical progression for this question is it's 10 years. You're pregnant with twins.
Yes.
Are you doing this introspection again?
Absolutely. 100%. I feel like, so Bryant and I have long discussed having a child and or children. We were not anticipating twins, as most people don't anticipate having twins. But I think what was important is that as we constantly built the company and evolved, we were always thinking like, well, how would we do this with a family? Or even just more basic than that, is having a family important to us? And if so, what does that mean for the business? And those things are also symbiotic because for us, interestingly, and I'll just speak for myself since Brian's not here right now, but for me, Fan-Based Press is my life in a way. It has been my baby for the past 10 years. And there is something on such an intrinsic level that I get creative fulfillment from doing, and that I have achieved such wonderful friendships and connections through doing this company that I could never see myself not doing Fan-Based Press. So what has been really important as we evolve and as we have these conversations about what does the company look like as we have children and in the next 10 years, et cetera, is that it is going to be a part of our lives and it is a priority. So it has to also evolve and change and become a different part of our lives as we grow our family. So I guess that goes back to the same point of introspection of a business is not just a bottom line. It's not just financial. It's a part of you. And so it has to also evolve and change as you evolve and change.
I think that's such a lovely sentiment. And when you talk about like your child is 10 now, and so, with a 10-year-old, I assume you would want them to be able to live slightly more on their own and independently. So are you planning to like ways to automate the Fan-Based Press world so you don't have to be so involved? Because you are fanatically involved with every part of Fan-Based Press now. And I don't know much about children, but I do know they require all of your attention, and if you have two of them, probably all of your attention like times two. So
exactly.
How do you actually go about you're like the managing editor, you're doing like you're overseeing everything, like you have a podcast, at least one, you do the audio drama stuff, like what is the actual like process that you're using to process all of these things? Or are you saying, I just can't deal with that right now and yet?
That's a wonderful question. I think it's a little bit of all of the above. What we've really done is, and again, this goes back to the same concept of hey, we need the company to evolve and change and what really matters to us when we rebuilt that foundation. But we had to constantly, even from 5 years ago, look at things and say, hey, Brian and I both have full-time day jobs that we're doing. So essentially, we both have two full-time day jobs that we manage. And we have always grown to, even though those jobs have changed over time, to adapt and to manage and evolve our lives to make sure that we have time for both. Again, because Fan-Based Press is so important to us that while we realize the financial aspect of the day job is important, the creative fulfillment and just life fulfillment of Fan-Based Press is equally important. So we did the same thing with the company in that we understood years ago that, hey, we're not always going to be able to produce, record, et cetera, every podcast. We're not going to be able to oversee every editorial series that we put out there. So one of the great things that we did even years ago and we still utilize is anytime that we bring something new on, is this new project something that's self-sustaining? Is it something that can evolve? Is it something that we can say, hey, we can be really hands-off with this and just be involved to a minor degree and yet still have it be successful? So that we're still implementing those same kind of things. I would say the difference here is that, especially with our publishing line and that we have a few projects currently in development right now, we have had to work around a little bit, building in a hiatus for ourselves of, hey, there are going to be some months here when we want to have full priority to our kids. I will be on maternity leave. Bryant will be on paternity leave. So we will want to give our kiddos the full attention that they deserve. And then as we're able, as we acclimate to what life is like that, we can kind of start to slowly build things back into our priorities.
Does COVID help with that? Like, COVID kind of blew everything up for everybody, and like, does it help you be like, well, we blew everything up, and like it worked out one time, and like we still are survived? Like, does that help you get in? I guess like I'm freaking out for you, like literally just listening to you, and like you're so calm. I'm like, how can you be so calm? But like, does part of it come from just the, hey, like we just had, like, the world just ended, and like we still have a business and we still have two jobs, and like if we can get through that, we can get through this other thing too?
Honestly, yes, I would say the last part that you just said, and to get more on a personal note, which I am happy to do, the last 5 years of my life have been probably the most evolutionary for me as an individual. I've changed so much and gone through a number of different things that have really impacted my worldview, my perspective, and how I approach things. But just as you said, because of that, in having gone probably the toughest 5 years of my life, I have also come to learn and realize that, hey, things can be really, really just, worst of the worst, but we still get through it. And having a wonderful partner like Bryant, not only in life, but in our business, having that ability to do that with another person helps just exponentially. So I think that there is exactly that you said, there is this aspect of, hey, we've been through hell and we got through it. And so we're kind of going through another hell right now, but at the same time, we're able to look and say, hey, here are the positives. We both have our down days, our rough days when it seems like everything is going wrong, but we pull each other out of it. But we, as you mentioned, we both have full-time jobs, so we're very grateful for that, where a lot of people are struggling right now financially. We both live in a nice apartment that is able to sustain not only ourselves, but two pending children. So we're able to get through it. And we are able to, we did have to do some pivoting with the company itself. And, obviously, since we're not able to do a lot of in-person sales at conventions for this year and possibly a lot of next year. So we really had to pivot the company and say, okay, what can we take that we're doing now without doing a complete overhaul and without having to do, completely new products? What can we adapt to that is really easy, but also brings in money virtually? So I think that combination of different things, in some ways, and I hate to say it, but like in some ways, this new living circumstance that we're in during COVID-19 has helped in the sense that I'm grateful that I don't necessarily have to travel to all these conventions, and I don't know if I would be able to do it. So that has helped in a sense. But at the same time, we've had to pivot and find new ways to bring in revenue since we don't have those opportunities.
What ways are you pivoting to? Like what ways, what new ways are you trying out, whether they've worked
Sure.
or not?
Absolutely. So, two that I can think of off the top of my head. One is that earlier this year, actually in January, we launched our advertising opportunities through our flagship podcast, the Fanbase Weekly. And this is something funny enough that it took us a few years to do it, but we had built in as part of our rebranding, we built in ad spots in our podcast. So we made sure that at one point when we were actually ready to launch advertising, it would be ready, we'd be ready to go, but we wanted to make sure that we were comfortable with it. We wanted to make sure, we knew what we were doing, what other people were doing, charging a reasonable rate, et cetera. So it took us a few years, but in January we launched it. And honestly, that's been bringing in a lot of great revenue that's been helping with little or no effort. So that's been really fantastic. Plus, at the same time, it falls again within the celebrating fandoms and creating new ones because we're helping other people to spread the word with their projects. The other one is the monthly creator forum that we're doing, which is kind of like the masterclass, a lot like the classes that you offer. And we do this once a month with a specialist from a different aspect of a creative medium. And it's an hour-long online virtual seminar, and they do a lecture, they do a Q&A session, and you get a little take-home sheet to give you resources to go forward. You did a phenomenal one on launching a Kickstarter campaign. We have one at the end of the month with Handle Taboo about how to engage with comics press. So we try to do different aspects, not just of comics, but other mediums as well. But again, that's a great way that we are bringing in new revenue. Also, the one that we're super excited about right now is we just signed a partnership with Hoopla, which is an online streaming service nationally with libraries. And so that's been another wonderful opportunity to reach new readers and to have a new revenue stream for all of our books, especially when, again, we're not doing the in-person conventions.
Yeah, those are all great opportunities that are digital and don't require any books. How are you burning inventory? Like, how are you going through inventory? Because, like, I know you get 2,000 copies of books a year at least. I get 4,000. And, like, my big question to everyone is, like, all right, there's no conventions. I keep getting books, and I don't burn books. So, like, by burning, I mean, like, selling books, not actually burning them. I want to make sure that, like, people know I'm not talking about actually burning books. But, like, yeah, how are you going through inventory? Or are you?
Yes, so we are in a sense, and I think that's one of the difficult things that we kind of had to come to terms with of, hey, we're not going to move inventory in the same fashion that we did when we were going to conventions. And we kind of have to be okay with that for the time being and really just try new efforts to see what works. We've been very fortunate in that, number one, Hoopla has actually generated a lot of physical sales of books because it's been a new audience to reach. And folks that find our titles on Hoopla then go and buy them in our online store or Amazon, which has been amazing. So that's been really fantastic. But it continues to be pounding the pavement a lot. I've been making a lot of inroads for the past, I'd say, year with the American Library Association, the ALA, and with educators trying to get especially our more educationally geared books into schools and libraries. So that's been helping. And really, it's taking part of a lot of virtual events like WannaCon earlier this year and seeing what works and what doesn't. And I think the important thing is, again, not only understanding that, hey, you kind of have to be patient with yourself because the loss of revenue and the inability to sell books at the same rate that you were when you were in person is just, it is a given. You have to accept it right now. But it's also being patient with yourself of trying new things, not getting discouraged if something doesn't work right away, because you never know the impact. You never know how many touch points you're having with someone virtually now and what that experience is going to be like, because this is just a whole new ballgame for everybody.
That's about where I sit too. I mean, I think I sold 100 books this month, and like a non-Kickstarter month, which was like a huge month for like non-Kickstarter, no conventions. But like I worry. I'm very worried because like I only have so much space in my garage, and we're about 3 Kickstarters away from me running out of space in my garage for things that like, and I don't know what happens then. Like, do I stop producing stuff? Do I like just do all digital releases? Like, what happens? Because I don't want this. I've been very clear, because Karen doesn't work in publishing, that like I want our house to be a house and not like my office to be like a thing. Like, I want the whole house. The garage is a different story, but I want the house to look like a house and not like this thing that has overtaken our lives. And I fear that like if I let it, I'm actually pretty good at like making sure that the world, like that like the two worlds don't connect that much. Like, Karen doesn't help me do my Kickstarters. I always have to do them in like a week, like when she's not around. So, or like, well, now like I just try and do it very judiciously when she's around, so that like I will destroy the house for like 3 days and then it'll be done.
Yes. Yeah, we did something similar in that last year. We did have a number of books, but at some point when we were ordering more and more, we had to invest in a storage unit. So we thankfully moved all of our books, except what we need in terms of shipping things out on a regular basis. We moved everything to a storage unit, and I think it's added to that same work-life balance that you're talking about. That you need to be able to separate yourself on a daily basis from your workspace so that you can mentally unplug from that as well.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. I just fear taking 7 pallets of stuff to a storage unit. And I'm like, it's a lot of effort.
Yes.
I want to talk about something you talked about a while ago, which was like staying positive and keeping a positive attitude, and you and Bryant working together. You guys are 2 of the most positive people that I've ever met. Like, even when stuff's going bad, like you just don't like want to wallow in it.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of bad shows together, and just like, I know if I want to like talk shit about a show, like you're not the people to talk to, because you'll just be like, meh. And if ever, there's only one show that I can think of, maybe 2, but one for sure that I was like, you had a bad experience, and I was like, oh God, like they had a bad experience. This must be really just like the worst show ever. How do you, what strategy, like, how do you do, like, how do you, like, what tips, tricks, things do you do to like keep yourself positive, especially at a time like this, or at a time when like you got 2 kids coming and the world just ended?
Yes, that is a great question, and one I constantly work towards. I think that I would be remiss if I did not say that I am not always a positive person. Bryant gets to see the bulk of me when I am not positive, when I am feeling negative or any wide range of emotions. But I think that there is something when I'm engaging with other people that, I don't know, I think I'm very much an empathic individual to an nth degree, where I can very much sense from others things that they are going through, things that they are feeling. And so I think I overcompensate for that when I deal with other people, in that I want them to be able to come away feeling more positive, more hopeful, more reassured. But that does not by any means mean that I do not have my own battles with anxiety, battles with depression, just negativity in general. But I think, that's such a good question. I think it's just, I think a lot of it has really been, as I mentioned, the past 5 years, and really doing a lot of introspection and doing, honestly, and I'm very open about it, in approaching mental health and therapy. I actually became a mental health first aid trainer for a few years as well. But it's really important to me and invaluable that we have good mental health and that we approach things, again, not just as a business, but as a whole individual as well. So I think that a lot of those techniques that I've learned in therapy or through my own educational approaches to mental health with other individuals, those have really gone to help me, especially in a time when it does feel like the whole world is falling apart. So, and that's to say, I feel touch and go some days, because some days it does feel like everything's falling apart around you, and it's hard to feel hopeful. But I think there are so many things that are important. Staying away from social media sometimes has been invaluable, because you do that thing, I think people refer to it as doom scrolling, where you just can't get off. You just keep looking at social media, but it's really not helping you. It's not benefiting you in any way. So I think it's things like that, and surrounding yourselves with people who care, but also cyclically being empathetic towards them, that you don't want to overpower them with negativity or with whatever emotions you're going through. So it's likewise not only being willing to share of yourself, but being really willing to share what other people are going through as well.
I like that. I like the part that it's so, I mean, it's not hard, because like we talk about like that actual depression and anxiety part quite a bit as like business owners to business owners. It's the thing that I find so hard is that, like, it's so hard. It's so hard just to, like, I'm 38 almost. I thought that, not that it would ever be easy. But I thought that once I figured it out, like, it would be easier. Like, it would be like, it would not feel like a frog being boiled, like outside, like the thing about the frog and like slowly like heating up but it's just a different set of fears now. It's like, okay, so for instance, we've got a bunch of books, like we've got we're doing our second volume of Ichabod, and like I fear that like I've broken the world each time I do. It's like I know how to write an Ichabod story, but I watch things like Game of Thrones or like many other things that like have lasted for a long time, and they suddenly lose their luster, and I'm like, oh my God, am I gonna like break everything? Am I gonna just like have it all tumble down? And it's not even like I don't think that I have a career, like Brian K. Vaughan or something, where like there's a ton to lose. I mean, there's a ton to lose, but like if Ichabod suddenly shits the bed, it's not like I don't have other things to fall back on, or like it's not like you couldn't build it back up again with like all the people that I know. But it's still just so freaking hard. Like it still feels like pulling teeth like 6 years on.
Absolutely. Well, and I think, Russell, what's really important is that, and I think you make an apt analogy in terms of utilizing someone like Brian K. Vaughan. While you and I may be very different in terms of, and again, I'm doing air quotes about the word success with someone compared to like a Brian K. Vaughan, at the same time, that there's no value judgment in terms of who has worked harder, you or Brian K. Vaughan. You are both putting in different levels of effort. You're both working on very different things, but that doesn't mean that they are any less important to either of you. That doesn't mean that for both of you, you are not both working at your 100% capacity. So it's hard to compare people like that. And it's I think, very important for us all to remember that we are still all weathering the storm. We may be in different ships, and those ships may be different sizes. But for each of us, our experiences are no less real from person to person, and no less challenging from person to person. So it may, in outward appearances, seem very, very different. But you are going through very challenging things, just as Brian might, or I might, or anyone else might be.
Yeah. So what I love about your company, to go back to change the topic as we move to our final segment, is that you guys put out such wonderful work, and you do it at a scale that, aside from my company, I think that I'm trying trying to think of how to say this while sounding positive. But like, it's like both of our companies are quite small, but we put out pretty freaking amazing books, and like, still on the general like scale of the universe, like I don't think most people know that either of our companies exist outside of like the specific region of California. Like, it's not Random House, but the book that we put out are quite good, and I would love for you to, for someone who is small, like your company is run by two people, mine is run by one person, and like when I say one person, I say like, you know, it's a small operation, and yet we are able to get a lot of quality work done. And over the years of my company, I have seen you do 2 books a year, and like those 2 books, the next year the books get better, and the next year the books get better, and they were starting at a high bar anyway. And I would love for you to talk to like a new creator or someone who's just had a book and is worried that they're not like they're never going to like break through, or they're and sort of talk. Could you talk a little bit about like how you've been able to like put out such high quality work for so long, even though like you are self distributed and on a, I don't want to say something that sounds like that because like it's all good stuff, but like how does a company like you, who, or me also, or many of us, like there's tons of really amazing small publishers that put out 1 or 2 books a year that nobody really like would put in a conversation because like we're not in Diamond. Like, how does somebody who is just starting and worried about all of those, like I don't have a Diamond account, I don't have this, I don't have that, like what would you tell maybe yourself when you were like just starting about what it takes to sort of build this body of work that like I am so proud to have made, and I'm so proud to know you because you have such an amazing body of work that has come across by doing this consistency over the years?
Well, first, thank you for your kind words, and I echo your sentiments about your catalog because it is truly amazing, and I am honestly in awe of how much great content you put out there. But I think it goes back, Russell, to what we were talking about earlier, in that if you take that time at the beginning of your journey, as well as all throughout your journey, to really zero in on why am I doing this? What do I want to do? What am I good at? And what am I best at doing? I think if those are the most important questions that you're asking yourself, then you're never going to steer yourself wrong. I think where I see a lot of folks struggle is that they're told often, and I think erroneously, that you have to do things this way, and if you don't do them this way, then you won't succeed in comics, in any business. And I just really don't abide by that tenet. For me, I think that if you start small, and if you know what you're doing, you know why you're doing it, you know what you're good at, even if that changes, if you're constantly looking at those questions and asking yourself those questions, and you get really good at 1 or 2 things, then you get known for those 1 or 2 things really well, because people know, hey, this is a good person and they do this really well, and I really enjoy it. I enjoy their work. I enjoy talking to them. And at the end of the day, what more can you ask than to have a great experience with a new reader or just a new colleague or friend? And then you can scale that. You can evolve and grow and do more and more. But sometimes I see folks trying to grasp it so much so quickly, that it's like when your eyes are bigger than your stomach and you think like, oh, I want to order a feast, but you can only eat a little bit. So I really think it's important that, yes, it's important to remember scale in terms of what can you do well on a larger basis as you do grow, as you do learn more. But as long as you are constantly looking at, hey, am I doing this well? Am I enjoying it? Do I love it? Is it what I'm good at? I think you're never going to steer yourself wrong. So don't be afraid to start small. Don't be afraid to stay small. You can always grow more, but it's harder to cut back.
That's absolutely true. And one thing I've always respected about your company is we've talked about scale a lot of times. I feel like it's like half of our conversations. And always over the time when I've been like, hey, you're thinking of like scale, like you just got an ice year, you're going to do more stuff. And you're just like, we know what we can do well. We know how much we can do well. And like, we're going to stick in that like space and just do the thing well that we know we can already do well and deal with the future as it comes.
Absolutely.
So, speaking of the future, what's next?
What's next? We right now our big thing is the Quince Definitive Bilingual Edition hardcover, which collects both the Spanish and Spanish and English editions of the Eisner-nominated series. We put them in an oversized hardcover with lots of amazing added features. It was just named as a finalist for the 2020 International Latino Book Awards. It was a winner of the Independent Publisher Award earlier this year. So we look forward to really getting the word out about that. As well as through our entire catalog being added to Hoopla. We do have a few new projects on the horizons. One that will be coming out soon is Nuclear Power, which is a great series it's an alternate history tale about the Cuban Missile Crisis. It's an all-female creative team. Both of the writers are of Cuban descent, and they really tackle a lot of Prussian issues, mostly around what it means to be an other, what it means to have rights, and to be a whole person in the eyes of not only your community, but of your government as well. So it's a really fascinating series. We've got some others that are in development that I can't share quite yet, but that we're super excited about. And we'll actually be verging into the graphic medicine field next year as well with a new project. So we're super excited about it.
Awesome. I love it. And I'm very excited about Nuclear Power as well. Where can we find you guys?
Sure. Our website is fanbasepress.com. We're on all of the social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, everything, I think, except MySpace. But we're always happy to answer questions, even again, and I'll highlight that since we are more of a boutique company, we don't take on a lot of new projects. But if creators want to reach out to us with any questions or comments or feedback, we are always open to any contact with new readers and viewers.
Awesome. And final question, what is the one piece of advice that you would give somebody that you want in order for them to like leave this podcast with like a good feeling?
I will always go to my steadfast Mr. Rogers, my favorite quote. There are 3 ways to ultimate success. The first is to be kind. The second is to be kind. And the third is to be kind.
I love it. Thank you so much for stopping by, Barbara.
Thank you so much, Russell. Always great to chat with you.
So that was our interview with Barbra Dillon of Fanbase Press. If you enjoyed that one, go check out their site. Go check out their books. They are all awesome. And if you want a really cool book, go check out Ichabod Jones and Monster Hunter on Kickstarter. And if you want to make your own awesome work, then check out thecompletecreative.com/best work for our ebook on how to make the best work of your life. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Have a great day, everyone. That's it for me.